So today's video is actually going to be a little different. I am so excited to talk to you guys about and share with you guys about how Jesus took control of my life and how he led me to him. And I just can't wait to share with you guys. So as of 1 year from today, May 6, 2018, I gave my life to Jesus. So life as a young Christian. Growing up, there was a lot of great things about growing up in the church. I remember learning Bible verses. I grew up in a Pentecostal church, being in the worship team with I think like 4 or 3 other cousins of mine. And we all learned instruments together, we all sang together, we all worshiped together. And back then it was just something like, I sing because I like to sing. And don't ask me to sing now, because I'm not gonna sing now. I am the worst singer now, but apparently I was a good singer back then if they allowed me to obviously sing on stage. As I got older, as a teenager, I grew a little more away from God. I started questioning things. The enemy took a hold of me, and I'm not proud to say that, because who is, So life without God in my life was definitely hard. I felt like I was always struggling, whether it was emotionally, physically. I always felt like I was always struggling with something in my life, and I can't really explain the joy that's in my life now. I just remember a lot of heartache, just having difficulties in my life all the time. It was always one thing after another, after another, after another. I definitely suffered a lot from anxiety. There was a point in my life where I suffered a lot from depression. I put myself in situations that led me to wanting to commit suicide, running away from the ones that loved me, constantly being a fighter and fighting back on things, and just not letting things go, and partying and drinking. Looking back at it now, I'm just like, it was not fun. I thank God for always being there. Even when I wasn't a Christian, he was still looking after me. And I thank the people that always kept me in their prayers, that no matter what happened to me in life, the prayers of people, my mom's prayers, my church's prayers, they always kept me safe. And I can't thank everyone enough for that. It was actually a few things. And it's so funny how God works, because he keeps nudging you and pushing you, and he's like poking you, and you're just like, I don't care, like I don't want to hear about him. Like he's like, you just, when you don't see things in God's perspective, everything is just like, God's the worst, I hate God, Jesus this, whatever. And I remember I was working at a resort at the time, and there was actually 2 co-workers of mine who were Christians, and it was so funny because both of them just so happened, one of them happened to work with me the whole shift, because I used to work graveyard, and the other one, she would sometimes stay with me until like midnight. It's so funny because they would both sit in the room where I would work, they would basically like talk about God and talk about their church and how, you know, how great things are, and they started talking about like Bibles and scriptures and stuff, and I would just remember sitting there and I'm just like, can they be done with this? Like, this is so rude of them to be sitting here and like talking about stuff like this. It's like so disrespectful. And I remember that was the first time I really feel like God was really like starting to nudge me and like tell me like, come on. They would still do that. I never really said anything. And it was so funny because a lot of the times I would be the one sitting right in the middle of them, and they would be having these conversations, and I'm literally sitting there like, can you guys not? Like, that's really annoying and disrespectful. Of course, this is a mentality of a sinful person, right? Anyways, the months went by. My cousin came to visit me. Her name is Natalie, and you guys saw her in the last video when we had our San Diego trip. And if you guys have not seen that, go make sure to see that video too. But she came with my other cousin, which is her sister. She came, they both came out here to visit, and I remember like I was still working in the resort, and when she came, I remember her telling me like, you know, all of these things that were happening, that had happened in her life, she kind of almost seemed lost. But what shined the most and what stood out to me the most was how even after everything she was telling me, even after everything that she told me she was going through, I just remember looking at her and just being like, wow, God must be really real. For her to really still have faith. Anyways, after she left, it really stuck in my heart. Like, her story just really stuck in my heart, and it really kept like nudging me. And there Jesus was again. There was God again, nudging me. And then what really did it was my daughter. It took Melanie being the one to say, Mom, I really want to go to church. Let's go to church, Mom. It took that to really get into my heart and really be like, God is doing something here. He is getting to me through my daughter. It just started growing more in my heart, you know. Following Jesus started growing more in my heart again. And I remember telling my cousin, I'm like, dude, this kid is like wanting to go to church. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't want to go to church. And I remember her encouraging me all the time. And then eventually I was like, dude, I'm gonna do it. I found a church. I'm gonna go to church. And I remember her being so excited. And then I think I flaked like 3 times. I didn't end up going to church. And she's like, it's okay, just take it day by day. Like, you'll do it, you'll get there. And I'm like, okay. And then finally, I went to church. I started watching that movie about how the rapture happens, and it just so happened that the day that I went to church, the pastor in that church actually started preaching about that movie and brought up the movie and brought up the rapture and brought up all that stuff. And I'm just like, I need to repent. I'm like, I don't want to be left behind. I went up to the altar. I prayed with one of the sisters there, and I remember just bawling out in tears. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm so happy to do this. Like, I feel it in my heart to do this. And before I even had all of that, there was so many things that were going on in my life, like numerous things where I literally just felt so defeated. I felt so like overwhelmed in my life. I was like having anxiety all the time, even while driving, and I couldn't explain the anxiety. They would happen out of nowhere, and there was just so much, like, it was event after event after event after event of things that were happening in my life where I felt hopeless. I felt like, what am I gonna do? You know, how am I gonna live? Like, remember feeling just defeated. And that day that I gave my life to Jesus in that altar of the church, I just remember saying, I surrender. I give up. I give my life to you because I have nothing else. I have nothing else to lose. And I remember being so happy, so excited. The people at the church were so welcoming. So now, a year into being Christian, I've been baptized. I never thought I'd say that. I got baptized in June of that year of 2018, which was just last year. And I'm just like, I'm amazed in what God has done in my life. And I literally can go on and on and on and on in this video of all the great things. But I will say, honestly, He took my anxiety away. Anxiety that would happen out of nowhere for no reason. He took that away from me. He took away the sadness. He took away the troubles in my life. I cannot say how grateful and thankful I am to have Him in my life. And I really encourage you guys, if you guys have not yet, experienced it for yourself and really put your heart into it, into Him, and pour yourself into Him, He does wonders, and He will do it for you. If He can do it for me, He can do it for you. And I want to just leave this video with saying that if you have felt it in your heart, you want to go to church, if you feel like you have been wanting to, know more about God, I really encourage you to do it, to look for Him, to really find that joy in Him. And don't let the enemy tell you that He's not going to forgive you, that He's not going to forgive your sins, that He's not going to love you, because it's a lie. It's a lie. I know many of us grew up thinking and believing, oh, if we don't behave, God will punish us, or God punishes us and stuff like that. Like, He does not punish us. He loves us. I encourage you guys to really seek for Him, because when you call out His name, He will answer.